All right, friends. So this has been a unique day. It's been a special service, and as such, we're going to continue to do things a little differently. We've already been having sacred experience together throughout this morning, and that sacred experience is our core focus. So I'm not going to give a significant teaching on top of it, but I do want to just share something here, less of a sermon, more of just a brief reflection that connects with both what we've been doing here today as well as the teaching series we began a few weeks ago. So a few weeks ago, I started a series I'm calling Hurt to Whole. And this series of teachings will take us through the coming weeks leading up to our Haven retreat, and will kind of give us some of the grounding for our time there. And it's drawing on insights from the certificate program I've been engaging with over the last year, finished this summer, on trauma and spiritual care. And as I think about what we've just done here today, and also what we're going to be talking more about in the weeks to come in regards to trauma, healing, and resiliency, a common thread that comes up for me is embodiment. Some of you know that before I became a pastor, my goals and vocational identity were in the arts, studying theater in college, writing music, performing. And so in recent years, most of my writing efforts have gone into preparing sermons. But as I was reflecting on this occasion and this topic today, I found myself wanting to express what feels to me like this common thread between Caleb's journey of identification and the ceremony we've been engaging in, and the series we're considering this fall through our retreat next month, like poetically. That's just kind of how it sat in me, what I wanted to express to you today. So I don't write a lot of poems or spoken word pieces currently, but I felt this one stirring within me. So I'm going to share a poem and then just reflect for a couple minutes more on it and where we go from here. Our bodies hold our stories. Stories of triumph, stories of terror. Our bodies hold our stories. They are written in the sinews of our muscles, the creases of our brows. These stories are inscribed in our very bones. Our bodies hold our stories. We imagine ourselves to be storytellers, crafters of language, composers of narrative, communicators of verbal ideas arranged to say that this happened, and then this, and it brought that. But we forget that the story lived first, not in the left hemisphere of our brain where thoughts become words, but somewhere before. The story began in the pulse that quickens. The story lives in the hairs alighting on the back of the neck. The story is found in the clenched fist, the tight jaw, the soft kiss, the sweet smell of cinnamon, sugar, and cloves. The story exists in a memory our mind has forgotten, but our body remembers, which, when we pause to think of it, makes sense, because what is the mind anyway but a part of this same body? The mind is not the author of the body. It is not creator. The mind does not exist outside of the body, as much as it may wish at times to escape it, but the mind belongs. The mind sees through eyes. The mind hears through ears. The mind tastes through lips and tongue and nostrils. The mind knows what it knows through touch, through feel, through breath. The mind is not the source of the body. It is a member of it. The mind is a member which works like all other members of the body, best in cooperation, through collaboration, remembering stories as it remembers itself, transcribing these stories that have already been written into our flesh, on our skin, through these bodies. For our bodies hold our stories. The good news is, as long as there is breath in our lungs, beats in our heart, pulse in our veins, this body is still writing stories. Chapters of trauma may have been written, yes, but we are also writing chapters of recovery. Stories of hurt may be carried in our frames, but these frames also carry stories of healing. Pain may exist within our cellular makeup, but so does love and hope and joy. There may be curses exclaimed from the depths of us, but there are also praises exalted as the body bears witness not just to itself, but to the sacred behind it and before it, beneath it and beyond it. God in all things, the breath of the divine, moving, stirring, enlivening, resurrecting. Yes, even this story of the transcendent is captured here as the body experiences and quakes under a wonder that some would call mystical. Some might call spirit. Some may call God. And some might simply name as that breathtaking, heart-stopping moment of awe. Our minds are the translators who choose the right words that speak best for us. But our bodies know what they know. Our bodies know this grace, for our bodies hold our stories. So friends, today's ceremony has been an embodied practice. We've come around Caleb, literally painting his body to bless him and act as a community through symbolic action, through touch, through words, through prayer, that we affirm and celebrate his transition of identity. Caleb has been following his own body's wisdom, even when it's been deeply painful and uncomfortable. And he has honored the story his body has told him. He has honored the way his body has shown him what he knows himself, who he knows himself to be, how he has been made, as we have said, beautifully and wonderfully made by God. Whether or not Caleb ever chooses to transition medically, he is embodying his known identity. He does this as he has purposefully chosen his name, as he has shared it with all of us, as he has invited us to speak it and bless this transition with him. Amen? And Caleb's not the only one who has a story being spoken within his body. All of us do. That's the heart of what this poem was intended to speak, and it's a core insight of trauma studies. What trauma specialists have come to understand is that trauma lives in our bodies. Our bodies hold those imprints of those experiences that have overwhelmed our brains. Those experiences don't just live in our minds alone. Those stories of the things that overwhelmed our typical capacity to cope are also contained within us. And it matters that we know this, because if our bodies hold the pain, then it also follows that our physical beings may also hold the pathways to healing and resiliency. In fact, I believe we cannot heal that which is within our bodies in a disembodied way. Amen? Unfortunately, much of Western life for multiple millennia has often been relatively disembodied. And this includes, of course, the practice for many of Christian faith. We as a tradition have been impacted by ancient ideas that the mind or the soul were somehow apart from the body, that it was somehow superior to it. We've been told that the goal of the mind is to master the body, to control it, to subdue its wildness. And tragically, we've often been taught to do this through shame, through deprivation, and through the silencing of our capacity to attend to our physical sensations, our needs, and the longings within us. But I don't believe we're meant to live that way, amen? Yes. Particularly as a Jesus-centered community. For those of us who connect with the Jesus-centered tradition, we are following one whom our faith teaches chose embodiment. The story of Jesus is a story of the divine, not content to connect with the human beings that the God created in a disembodied way. This divine wanted to connect with them by sharing a life of frailty and beauty in a physical human body. As the writer of the Gospel of John said, the Word became flesh and dwelt among us. So throughout his life and ministry, the Gospels paint Jesus as modeling an embodied spirituality. It was only when he went into the river, submersing his skin, his hair, his nostrils under the water's flow, that he was fully empowered by the divine, right? In various encounters he had with folks in need around him, the sensations in his body moved him into spiritually empowered action. So while our English translations speak of Jesus being moved by compassion when he encountered a widow's suffering after she lost her one and only son, the original Greek speaks to a physical response he was having, literally his intestines being wrenched inside, prompting him to reach his hand out and bring a healing touch. When a woman who'd been hemorrhaging blood for over a decade extended her own hand meekly to the hem of Jesus' garment in hope of a miracle, Jesus felt it in his being, a rush of power moving through his body to bring that woman's cure. And the embodiment of the divine in Jesus was not just about demonstrating spiritual power that could flow through human flesh. It was also about choosing solidarity with the suffering that our bodies can experience. A suffering that was demonstrated most fiercely as that body submitted to the evil of state-sanctioned violence, drawing close in a unique way to all who've experienced unjust bodily suffering. For Jesus, that meant a brutal bodily death. But that same faith also testifies to a divine one who did not allow this death to be the final word. The earliest followers of Jesus were completely insistent that when they say he rose, they meant not just in spirit, but in body, with a mouth that ate and drank, as well as spoke words of wisdom. They proclaimed he rose with a body that still bore scars that could be touched by curious, wondering hands, a body that told a story. So this too is a continual invitation for us. May we pursue a way of being in the world, including as spiritual beings, that is fully embodied. May we draw inspiration and direction from the Calebs in our lives, as well as the Jesuses, all of those who remind us through their own practices of embodiment to attune to the stories in our flesh. And may we be open to the way these stories might be an important part of how the divine wants to move in a real way in our midst, just as our tradition teaches God moved through the embodied ministry of a carpenter turned rabbi from Nazareth thousands of years ago. And as we do these things, I pray that our bodies not only become the revealers of our stories of pain, but also the revealers of our capacities to heal, both ourselves and the world around us. Amen. So as we move into the final part of our service, I want to introduce you to somebody who I have learned so much from about what it means to be embodied as a human, and that is my sister Mandy. She's with us today. And Mandy is a body worker. She's a holistic health teacher. She is a somatic worker of healing in so many ways and facilitator. And so since she happens to be visiting this weekend, and this happens to be our topic, I asked if she would lead us just in a few-minute exercise to connect with our own bodies, an embodiment grounding, a check-in. So.
Thank you so much, Leah. I've been absolutely moved from today. So, okay, part of drawing from this beautiful poem and spoken word and ceremony that we've all been privileged to witness today, we can begin to orient more towards our own experiences in our vessels, in our bodies as they are in this moment. That is kind of the foundational principle of embodiment practices, of somatic practices. Soma meaning the whole of our bodies. So as we do this, if it would feel well to you, and absolutely just taking anything which serves and is available to you in your body, and anything which does not, just let it move on through. You can leave it at the foot, so to speak. So, okay, if it feels well to you, just letting your eyes softly close, beginning to orient to the language of the body so that we can attune to those stories of our unique vessel. The language of the body existing in the realm of sensation. So beginning to draw our awareness to whatever sensations are arising in your present awareness, in your body as it is here and now, without any intent to control or to change. We're just noticing, just quietly observing what is present. Sometimes we can mistakenly begin to conflate our feelings or our emotional states with sensations, especially as we begin to just found those foundational beginning principles of sensory awareness. So ways we can help to track sensation in our bodies, as if tracking an animal through the wilderness, or quietly observing clouds passing overhead. We can continually return to movement, perceptible temperature or density, energy that you're experiencing in your body. That really helps us continually orient to that language of the body, sensations. So now perhaps, if it would feel well to you, resting both feet upon the floor. Maybe noticing if you can widen into your chair. And taking a deep breath together once again. Drawing your attention into that muscle of inspiration, the diaphragm, right at the center of the body, the base of the rib cage. And just noticing any movement or undulation of the breath as it passes in and through your body. Now beginning to see if you can elongate and deepen the quality of your breath a little more. Perhaps noticing any expansion in the body or the quality of emptiness as the breath recedes. Again, just noticing. Our bodies are this miraculous series of relationship with the elements and environment around us. We are formed by the draw of gravity towards the earth. So let yourself perhaps experience that sensation in these final moments of our practice. Releasing with the exhale into that contact where your body is touching the chair, touching the floor. See if with your mind's eye you can imagine or allow the body to soften and release a little further into that direct contact with the chair, into the support that this relationship with gravity is offering you in this moment. Softening into the earth, softening into this body as your home. Taking a few closing, cleansing breaths here. Intentionally expanding the body with the breath as much as feel comfortable to you in this moment. And perhaps letting it go with a sound, with a vibration, with a sigh. To really help emphasize that sensation of the exhale, of the letting go. And then returning your attention back to any sensations that are arising in this moment. Just curiously observing if perhaps the sensations have shifted throughout these few minutes together in attentive observation. Just honoring those stories, the language of the body as it lives in you in this moment.
Thank you, sister. I'm going to invite you to stay there as we go into, we got 2 more songs and communion we're going to be doing. But this first song is really an extension of what we've just been talking about and practicing. So I encourage you to not feel like you need to rush out of that moment, but to continue to allow yourself to connect with your soma, your wholeness, as we sing this song.